From everything I'm reading about Ohio, the fact is, yes, the bailout situation hurts Romney, but there's also evangelical turnout there, and I think enthusiasm makes a huge difference. I think he pulls it out there. I think in Virginia, there's not going to be the same sort of enthusiasm there was in 2008 for Barack Obama, and just based on that sort of enthusiasm gap, I'm going to give that to Mitt Romney. Iowa, I don't think that many people think that won't go for Romney right now. I mean, we're looking at the swing states. The only ones that I find or that you may find, I say, particularly controversial, I guess, would be really Ohio and Florida, which I'm giving both of them to Romney. I can't imagine who voted for Barack Obama in 2008 in Florida and is now still going to come out at that same level. I think that Romney's probably got the edge there. But I've been wrong before. What do you guys think?
So let me say this. Let me bring the viewers in here, Emily, if I can, to suggest to them that that is a revised map from the one Buck Sexton made earlier today, which had Mitt Romney winning. I think you had over 300 electoral votes at some point today. The point I'm making here, Buck, is that your name belongs right here with Larry Kudlow. I think Glenn Beck is suggesting this could be a landslide.
And Michael Barone.
Michael Barone, George Will. There's some big-time names. You took yourself off the list by revising it down, I think, Buck.
I still have a clear, I still have a clear Romney win, and he's in the neighborhood. All he does is, let's say he picks up Pennsylvania or Wisconsin. Then he's right in the neighborhood of 300, which is a landslide. So we're talking about a revising before the show.
So let's do this. Let's discuss this concept of a landslide, right? Can Mitt Romney pull off this possible landslide victory? Or is there going to be a squeaker that President Obama wins? It seems to come down to one question, and one question only. Do you believe the polls? Am I right? I mean, because the polls suggest, Emily, that Barack Obama's winning those states that you're giving to Mitt Romney.
We have a poll expert here who can tell you about this.
So can we believe the polls that suggest Obama has a lead in Ohio and Colorado and Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan and Pennsylvania?
Right. That's exactly the problem. So I've gone through the polling data. I've looked at the numbers. I hate to show you one more map, but let's see if we can zoom in here. This is what the polls suggest to us tomorrow will look like, meaning that Romney will sweep most of the battlegrounds in the South, like Virginia and Florida. And I shouldn't say sweep. He will squeak out a win. But in terms of the Midwest, Obama will carry those states. But here's actually why I am skeptical. If I were to bet, I might bet on a map that looks like this. But there are a few things
narrow
that work.
Obama win.
A squeak.
Obama wins Iowa, I see on that map.
Yes, he
along
wins
with Ohio.
Yes, Obama would win. If the polls are right, he would win Ohio and Wisconsin, Nevada, and Iowa. But I think these polls might be wrong, and here's why. A lot of the polls have based their likely voter models on 2008, when Democrats had a +7 or +8 percentage point advantage. And that made sense in 2008. But in 2012, it seems very unlikely. So, for instance, the most recent Ohio poll by CBS, and, New York Times, and Quinnipiac showed that Obama was leading in the state of Ohio. But they also showed that Democrats had an 8-point advantage in the state, the same as in 2008. Karl Rove called this absurd, and I agree.
Absurd. There's no way that President Obama is going to get the same levels of turnout in 2012 as an incumbent as he did in 2008 as a fresh face who was exciting and animating brand new voters, first-time voters who'd never gone to the polls. Why are they presuming their polls on that kind of turnout?
Whether the final count is 285, as I have it here, or 300 for Romney, I think that we can see what the clear, broad spectrum issues are that he has the advantage going in, right? You've got half of the country not approving of his job, which is a big number for the incumbent going in. You also have unemployment close to 8%. And you have the enthusiasm gap, as Amy's laying out for you now. Those are all very strong reasons to believe that the polls may be off a little bit, and they don't have to be off that much for him to win some of these key knockdown states. I mean, we all know it's close, but it's close enough that if the polls are wrong, we could see a big Romney win.
We have one more piece of evidence that I think might be the most compelling. Emily, you're right. All of these polls seem to suggest turnout and projection rates will be like 2008, historic Democratic turnout, historic year
for any Democrat.
So what we have already, though, we know of, is early voting records, right? And we know that President Obama, we don't know how they voted in early voting, but we know their party affiliation. So if you assume people vote according to their party, Barack Obama is winning, and I think 4 of the 5 states we can tally for early voting, which are Florida, Ohio, Virginia, and North Carolina.
But that's always true. Democrats tend to
always true. Surprisingly, Mitt Romney's winning Colorado in early voting. But what we're seeing, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Emily, is Barack Obama, yes, is winning the early vote in those states, but not like he did in 08.
Turnout is
not
way down.
with
Correct.
the same kind of margins as 08, which suggests we're not looking at an 08 electorate.
And you also have
Absolutely true.
evangelical
True.
turnout, which could be bigger this year than it was in 2008 in
Yes.
key states. And that could be the deciding factor in places like Ohio, and certainly I think could help in a place like Colorado.
And what's fascinating to me is that Romney leads the independent vote in almost every single poll on Real
He's
Clear
been blowing
Politics.
Obama away on the independent vote.
Even in the battleground states.
Yeah.
So it seems quite odd that Obama could blow out Romney in these battleground
Undecideds
states.
tend to go against the incumbent. Correct me if I'm wrong. At this
True.
point in the race, if an
True.
undecided has not gone for the incumbent, they're not so happy about things, and they're probably going to go for the guy who says he's going to do something else.